All right, I think we're live. Push 1 in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 815, Micromobility Talk. Please hit the like button to come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Also, there's a docket in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with and reference. If you want to join the panel, there'll be a link in the chat for Zoom. Update your Zoom client before joining. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so I wanted to talk about the state of micromobility. And what's going on here is that we have been talking about this for quite some time on the Black Brain Trust, and no one really took us seriously a few years ago. But now we see this explosion in the market that's with a market evaluation of close to anywhere between 10 and $20 billion. When we were talking about it, it was less than 2 billion. Now it's exploded. And so what does it mean to be involved in micromobility? What does the term micromobility really mean? Let me bring in Complex Design.
What's good, Mike? What's going on, everyone?
Put some volume on your mic, please.
All right, hold on 1 second. How do I sound now, Mike?
Good.
Okay, all right.
I think Complex is getting his mic together right now. So what we wanted to do is talk about the state of micromobility and its impact on the Black community, because a lot of people don't really realize that Black people are lacking in universal basic mobility.
Hey, Mike, am I coming in okay now?
You sound kind of muffled.
All right, man, let me figure this out. All right, go ahead, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, so universal basic mobility, what does that mean? The ability to have access to access to mobility through various means. You saw this recently during the pandemic with free busing, mass transit in predominantly Black areas and underserved areas. And then you started seeing the popping up of e-bikes and also ride sharing platforms in these areas to provide access to underserved and underrepresented communities to carbon-free or carbon zero emission vehicles. And that being said, we see this as a viable market for Black people to really get into. It's an emerging market. It's something that they've been doing in Europe for quite some time, but in America, it's a little bit different. We haven't really had this kind of conversation with Black people where most of the time you see these conversations, they're really centered around white people, but in reality, it's really Black people that it should be centered around. because you start talking about pollution, you start talking about climate change, you start talking about infrastructure, all of that plays a significant role to Black people. And you start seeing bike lanes roll out during the pandemic in predominantly Black areas, and people were like, whoa, what does this really mean? Well, that's because you have to set up the infrastructure, and that's a core piece of the infrastructure. You need allocated space for bikes to travel on the same road as vehicles. And so now that the infrastructure is here, what are you going to do about it? You know, what role do you play in this? And so Complex has really been behind a lot of these discussions, but I'll let him really engage in this.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to make sure, am I coming in okay now? If I'm not, I'll jump on my computer.
Yeah, you're a little bit better now, but go ahead.
What the fuck's going on here? Okay. Hey man, yeah, appreciate the intro, Mike. You know, this is something that's been a cornerstone of the Brain Trust in terms of emerging technologies. You know, I was there at the onset of it, you know, working for one of the biggest startups in the game, and basically learned it and transmitted that data through the Brain Trust via a series of live streams talking about this stuff at length. And, you know, the more I started studying this stuff, the more I started sending links to Mike, you know, emails back and forth, you know, various articles, videos, you know, talking about the industry, new types of technology and stuff like that. You know, I started to realize that there's a quote by this one guy. He did a talk at the Harvard Business School about micromobility back in 2019. And he said that the micromobility companies of today are going to be the car companies of tomorrow. And it sounded kind of crazy a little bit, but since that time, when we really start to look at what's taking place in the market, everything's starting to shift more to the consumer side. So now people are opting to go with what we were coming up with various names. Me and Mike and I, like yesterday, for this stuff like PEVs, personal electric vehicles, or personal micromobility vehicle, or so now people are kind of scaling down in terms of like their method of getting around. You don't really need a car, you know, for the most part, you really don't. So it's not, we're not saying replace the car, right? You know, there are some sectors, you know, where they do want to replace cars, but not saying that, but we're looking at more like in the Black communities, and we look about the lack of mobility, right? Buses that run once an hour, stuff like that, man. You know, like this is a game changer in terms of being mobile, and not only being mobile, but having businesses and various things that run off of this base mode of transportation.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that we covered this months ago and many times before, but the average person travels in the urban area anywhere between 2.2K to 3.7K on a daily basis if they're out and about. And so these are things that don't necessarily require a combustion engine vehicle, internal combustion engine vehicle, and it doesn't necessarily require you to wait for a bus either, a mass transit vehicle. And so now, like Complex mentioned, PEVs, personally electric vehicles, that means that there is this niche of people who want access to mobility without the means of waiting for mass transit or owning a vehicle. New York City, I think owning a vehicle, you're insane to try to own a vehicle there. But there's a difference between this and motorcycles. Motorcycles, you're not necessarily dipping around and utilizing that for point A to point B. But with scooters, e-bikes, you're definitely going from point A to point B, and you're maybe adding an extra destination or 2 or 3 destinations all in one shoot. And so you don't necessarily do that with motorcycles, and you don't necessarily get the same privileges with motorcycles that you would with e-bikes and e-scooters. And the culture is different.
Way different.
E-scooters, you're standing up. E-bikes, you're sitting down, but you're also not using as much energy to accelerate, physical energy to accelerate the vehicle. It's just a little bit different. And so let's go into the first piece on the docket. Let me share my screen.
And Mike, while we're doing the live stream, I'll try to go dig through the catalog and pull out some of those micromobility live streams from the past that we've done and post them.
All right. All right, let me know if you can see my screen.
Good over here.
Actually, put one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right. This is from Fox 5 New York, push for e-bike regulations.
E-bikes, they can truly be a menace on the roads and sidewalks for New Yorkers. Close calls happen far too often, and now one New York City council member wants to get these modes of transportation properly regulated. Council member Robert Holden in Queens is on a mission to pass legislation calling for statewide regulation.
As Fox 5's Kendall Green shows us, not all e-bike riders see the proposal as the answer.
The traffic lines between drivers, e-vehicles, and pedestrians across New York City seemingly blur more and more by the day.
I see a lot of people just disregarding pedestrians and traffic laws.
Sometimes it's scary, but at the same time, it's the city.
While this New Yorker sees it as a norm we'll just all have to adjust to, it's not such a reasonable adjustment for everybody.
There's no insurance, no registration. Nothing.
New York City Council member Robert Holden is rolling out a new initiative he hopes will address some of the safety issues he's witnessed himself.
I'm not suggesting things that are not done now for other vehicles.
He's calling for statewide comprehensive regulation for e-bikes and mobility devices, proposing measures like required road tests, registration, licenses, and insurance for all e-vehicles.
You'll see many times they hit someone and they take off.
Also listed as proposed requirements, an e-mobility tax and inspection process for increasing e-bike safety beyond the roadways. It's been well documented how bikes' batteries have been a source of dozens of fires citywide.
We want to make sure these vehicles are safe. How many people were killed in fires already? I think it's 13 or more.
This e-bike rider points out what she considers a potential policy oversight.
What about the people who, use e-bikes to complete their jobs like Uber Eats? How accessible would it be to them to take these tests?
This job is dangerous.
Mbaye Gum, an e-bike delivery worker, tells us he already agrees with the regulations in theory, but fears the requirements add more expenses for a job that already has him pinching pennies.
The application, they just send you like $4 or $6. You go and you need to be careful.
Councilmember Holden says while his policy so far does have support from his constituents, it has to be implemented at the state level. And so far at this point, there's no indication that there is support in Albany. That's the latest from Upper East Side. Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
So there you have it, right?
Wow, here we go. Here we go.
Regulation is coming.
Here we go.
You just saw a black man on a scooter saying this is difficult for him. How is he supposed to get around? How is he supposed to do his job? That's why you need more black men at the table. That's why you need more black people at the table. Mm-hmm. And so you need people to be able to express themselves and not just have a singular voice of white people. It's not just a white people thing now. It's impacting everybody. This regulation. Let me start with the regulation piece. I don't disagree with it. I think that e-bikes, e-scooters, these battery fires, they need to be contained. I also think that there's a lot of stolen e-bikes and e-scooters that are just being randomly plugged into mismatch chargers and bad sockets and whatnot that causes the fires to begin with. A brownout, a spike, anything like that would actually cause that. There's a variety of reasons as to why those things catch on fire, most notably just inappropriate, incompetent use of the technology itself. But I also think that having registration of vehicles makes a lot of sense. It prevents people from stealing them. It adds a lot more structure. I'm a person who likes structure. I don't see why it would be difficult for an e-bike to have a QR code and tie it right back into the same DMV system that allows other vehicles to be registered there. I think that's a good thing. I don't think a license is necessary, primarily because a motorcycle permit would be more sufficient. You don't necessarily hear that. No, I think a motorcycle would do the same exact thing.
I was going to say, Mike, that's where I kind of, it stops for me. If we start talking about like licensing, then I'm against it, because it's a bike, right? It's a bike with a motor on it. Now, I could see like licensing e-bikes if the output was like over like 1,000 or 1,500 watts on the motor or something like that. Like if it's got like some stupid output, right, where it's going to throw you around at about 60 miles an hour, then I can see that, right? Because you know, gas scooters and stuff like that, you would have to register those and have a license for something like that, you know. So I could see it, but I don't like, there's already insurance available for e-bikes. You can get that through Progressive, right? Progressive has it. It's like $10 a month or something, 10, 12 bucks a month. And it'll cover you in accidents. Lemonade has a policy that'll cover your e-bike as long as it's pedal assist. So there's insurance products already on the table. I'm kind of looking at it more as somebody who like retails them. I sell them. You know what I mean? I don't want things to kind of make it more difficult to sell them. You know, that's kind of where on my end, I get real skittish when now, because dude, e-bikes have been around.
Well, you know, I think the class levels play a role, right? Class 1, class 2, class 3.
Class 3,
but I think when you talk about gas scooters, anything under 49 cc's, 49 cc's and under
you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to register it, right? But e-bike is a little bit different. E-bike's a little bit different because you don't know what the class of that chassis is or that bike is or that scooter is until you actually pass it through some form of regulation, right? Because you see it on YouTube all the time. I mean, you and I talk about the stuff offline. You know, you got stand-up scooters doing 70 miles an hour. I probably don't want, you know, these type of vehicles on city streets if the speed limit in a thickly settled district, a business district, is 30 miles an hour, right? And so those already break the law by default. And so I agree with the legislator that, you know, there has to be some kind of structure around this, because every single new release of e-bikes or e-scooters or PEVs, whatever you want to call them, end up with more and more features and more speed.
More tech.
Right. They have more capabilities than what they did the previous generation. And so how do you put structure around this? I agree with the structure. I just think that there needs to be a smarter way. I don't necessarily agree that Progressive or any of these other private insurance companies should be the answer. I think that when you start talking about couriers, right? They have their own sort of union in New York. I think they unionized maybe last year or a year before, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that should be left up to them to decide if they want to form benefits as a micromobility union, right?
Right.
I think that should be left up to them and not necessarily up to Progressive or any of these private insurance companies.
Well, no, Progressive they have their own product, right? And that's literally for, like, let's say if you have like an apartment and they literally have a policy for people who ride e-bikes and stuff. If you get hit, it's just like if you had a car, right? You get, there's deductibles for injury, all that. So that's like a private kind of thing. I was talking more about making it a requirement, right? I don't know if you should make it a requirement, because you don't make it a requirement to ride a regular bike, even though you can get insurance for it. It's optional. And to speak to what you were talking to, in California, the equivalent to a 49cc motor on an electric bike is a 750 watt. That's what I have on my bike. So typically anything that's 750 watts and 48 volt output and below is basically like that should just pass go, collect $200, dude. I think when you go above 1,000 watts and you go above 48 volts, that's when you might need to start talking about putting a little registration sticker, because anything that has that big a battery capacity and that big a motor is going to be throwing somebody around. And I think those are the vehicles they may want to do that with, but I think you should set it firm at 750 watts and below, because that would leave a lot of scooters out. It would leave a lot of bikes out that really don't apply. And I think that would be the best. That would be the best move.
Yeah, and to that point, update motorcycle license and documentation, permit documentation as well, because what happens here is instead of coming out with a new license, you're just updating the documentation literature for motorcycles and adding e-bikes and e-scooters to it.
Just add it. Yeah,
this becomes additional. And so I see nothing wrong with regulation, but let's get to the next item on the docket. This is from Velo. Stop blaming e-bikes for the results of poor bicycle infrastructure. Urbanist update.
What?
Yeah, I like these different opinions. The loop comes full circle. Dallas is set to complete a connected greenway loop dubbed the Loop Dallas. Where did the name come from? A partnership between the city and 5 private stakeholders in the city. With partners that now range from the city of Dallas and Texas DOT to Dallas County, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and NCT COG, the team developed plans for the Dallas Loop. It involves adding 11 miles of new trails to 39 miles of existing trails to create a continuous 50-mile pathway. The first of 5 planned connectors opened this past May. 2 additional links are under construction. The whole project is expected to finish in about 3 years. At this point, 99% of the people don't know anything about it because we've kept a relatively low profile and kept our heads down, Ellerman says. But 10 years from now, everybody in the entire region will know the loop. It will be a destination. It will be an active transportation system. It will be a legacy asset for the city of Dallas. This is how they classify this now. The story then highlights all the work these developers and the city have done to keep the project going. The roadblocks, particularly around right-of-way issues, made the project take far longer than developers suspected. So this is the map of the loop, which is very interesting. It kind of ties in.
Like just a trail. It goes all the way around this thing. It's like
around the city. So
yeah.
This is a great project. Every city could use more public space, and the Loop Dallas does that. Further, the project seems to bring a way of thought about the need for public spaces that people in Dallas seem to crave. And of course, there are economic benefits with the story claiming a $50 return on investment for every dollar spent. That's big news, and it shows just how effective building public space for people is. That out of the way, allow me to be insufferable for just a moment. Why does it take $45 million in private donations, as well as a team of private business people and developers to get this off the ground? There's not much of a way this project isn't a net positive for the city unless it displaces communities of people. A look at the Dallas city budget shows that bike infrastructure funding accounts for just 0.055% of the budget. Further, People for Bikes ranks Dallas in the 5th percentile of cities according to their bike network score. I'm excited for the city of Dallas for getting a connected set of multi-use paths in a city starved for public space. I can't help but feel that this much private investment from real estate developers means the desires of this trail are far more than a public good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, like that when you talk about that kind of money and private stakeholders and all that, it's like, there might be a little more to this.
Yeah. St. Paul's ambitious new bike plan has a few holes to fill. We've seen these bikes multiple times. They're kind of common. Minnesota has been,
the Hulu bikes.
Yeah, Minnesota has been on a tear as of late with regard to active transportation and transit. As mentioned in the earlier update, Minnesota just dropped what might be the best statewide transportation bill we've seen yet. Now it's up to the cities to take advantage of that money, and it leads to a bit of a conundrum. Do they spend it on quickly building infrastructure, or do they take their time with the higher quality projects? St. Paul, Minnesota is in the midst of updating the citywide bicycle plan to reflect the newfound cash flow around high quality infrastructure with protected lanes, separated bike paths, and more. One such project highlighted in is the Capital City Bikeway, a separated bike path not at street level, but at the same tier as curbs. It's an excellent bike path, and one should provide loads of safety for cyclists. The problem here is that the project took quite some time to develop. A lack of funding meant they couldn't connect it to the places cyclists come from to ride into the downtown core. In short, they are here, but they don't connect to anything, making them useless to less experienced cyclists who need to travel in and out of the city. The author believes the city of St. Paul needs to expedite planned connections in order to connect them to popular bike routes. Further, it should be done as quickly as possible with cheaper solutions in order to connect those thoroughfares. My take, I'm in agreement up to a point. The city's currently draft plan looks like it's focusing on enduring long-term infrastructure in the city core, stuff that'll take over a decade to complete. So I'm not going to go through all of this. I think that the point is pretty clear that it's not so much about the people causing the problems, you know, like what you heard with the politician from New York, but the lack of infrastructure.
You know,
the lack of spending.
I was going to say, man, this is how you know this is like a new market. This is all new, because you just kind of juxtapose like two very real problems, right, that we're seeing with a new emerging market. On the one end, it's a user problem, right? And then on the other end of the scale, it's a bureaucratic issue, right? Both sides are kind of like doing whatever the hell. Because, you know, you do have those guys, you know, like Saronster, all those dudes. They, you know, they build those crazy mini electric mini motos. They take the Razor mini motos and then they change all the electronics in them, and these little things rip around at like 65 miles an hour, right? See, so you got people just buying off the shelf bespoke components, making their own videos, zipping around, accidents happening, battery fires because they don't quite know what they're doing, right? Then on the other side, you have people who go for land grabs and shit, and they use like e-bike infrastructure as sort of like the cover. Right. You see, Bird did the same thing. Lime did the same thing in LA back in the day. The companies ran amok, and then the people ran amok. You know what I mean? So you see both sides of it.
But I think the author made a good point about when that level of infrastructure comes into play, but Black people, because really, I think that's what he's really talking about. They're not actually a part of the conversation. Then they end up being the ones that's displaced. So, yeah. So
that's what we was just saying earlier when you opened up this live stream. That's what we've been trying to get the message out. Right? Think about that, dude. Micromobility as a mechanism of gentrification. Think about that. Mike, wasn't one of the main points that we had been trying to make about all this stuff is that if we utilize micromobility as transportation, as a public transportation type of utility, you basically reclaim, or you hold on to all of your transportation routes. You actually stave off gentrification. You prevent stuff like what that article was about. You prevent that from happening when you do it yourself. That's all I got on it.
Yeah, because when you start talking about, I don't know if they do it out in California, but they have open streets up here, basically where they shut down the road for a weekend, and everybody, you know, is allowed to walk freely through the streets, and all the businesses and street vendors and stuff like that can come out, and
we have those.
People people can engage and stuff like that. I think we're moving to that as a normal policy of, on these days, these roads are shut down and no vehicles can pass. And then you start talking about the microtransportation aspect to it, where it allows them to actually build that infrastructure really rapidly. Because I know out here we didn't have any bike lanes, and then suddenly it just popped up overnight. No one knew where it came from, and no one was allowed to be a part of that conversation. At least in the Black community, that was the case. And so when Black people woke up and like, whoa, what's going on here? Well,
that was a part of the what was the bill Obama passed from from the housing crisis, and then they had that spending bill. Okay. And it was the Rebuild America, or Rebuild, or whatever the heck that was called.
You mean Biden or Obama?
No, Obama. This was under Obama, because in California, when you started to see all of the road projects, like what you were talking about, were all old roads that they got the new funding to redo all of this stuff. The infrastructure bill.
I think it was a recovery bill for
the Recovery Act or something. That's what it was called, the Recovery Act. Okay. Yeah. You would see signs that says these improvements have been funded by the Recovery Act. It would literally say it.
Yeah.
It would literally say it. So the Recovery Act is what is paying for all of this. It's essentially, when you're gonna like repave the roads and do all that, you may as well just do it over to accommodate the bike lanes.
Yeah. Let me get to this next one here. This is from Inside EVs. New Haas Gravit City e-cargo bike puts a new spin on versatility. An innovative telescoping frame allows you to adjust the bike depending on the load you're hauling. This is very interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is interesting, because if you look at the picture, you see that there's a telescoping rod or a telescoping down tube there, and then there's an adjustment for it. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
And it's mid-drive.
Yeah, let me zoom in on this. Electric bikes have become so much more than bicycles with motors attached to them. These days, they've created a new category when it comes to urban mobility. And in parts of Europe and Asia, people are actually using e-bikes on a daily basis instead of their cars. That being said, cargo bikes are evolving and becoming more and more high-tech. Case in point, the new Gravit City e-bike from German bike maker Haas Bikes. The new Gravit City is unlike any other cargo e-bike currently on sale, simply because of the way it optimizes its cargo hauling capabilities. Unlike other cargo bikes where the storage compartment is behind the rider, the Gravit City makes use of an innovative front end wherein the frame of the bike can telescope depending on the size of the load you wish to carry. There's a large cargo board mounted on in front of the suspension fork, which is rated up to 40 kilograms of cargo. It can then be fitted with a variety of accessories such as canvas, web for you to dump your stuff into, or a more robust waterproof fabric box with 120 liters of storage capacity. I mean, 120 liters is more than an Audi R8. I don't know if people really understand the significance of this. Audi R8, I think it has something like 96.
It's literally just room for you and your chick. That's it.
Well, it's just a helmet. It's enough to put a helmet down here. But yeah, this is interesting.
And so it's got also rack space down. So okay, so it's got the cargo space up top, and it's got like a little small rack space down at the bottom, and then everything is on that telescoping rod. So all the weight in the front, it's on that telescoping mechanism right there. So the rider is behind it. So no matter what he's putting on the front, that thing is just going to always steer correctly. Because that's one of the main problems about those front load cargo bikes. They steer terribly.
Yeah.
But with this right here, that solves that problem.
Haas's new Gravit City isn't just a cargo bike either. If you install the padded child seat accessory to the front cargo board, you can carry your little one along with you on your rides, provided that they are no taller than 1.2 meters and aren't any heavier than the previous mentioned 40 kilogram capacity. Now, if the expanded front luggage solution simply isn't enough for you, there's also an Altran Velo rear rack that can carry up to 25 kilograms of cargo. You can even fit a porter rack under the frame to stow away smaller items. In total, the Haas Gravity e-bike can carry up to 200 kilograms of load, rider included.
What?
In order to reliably propel this e-bike and all of its load across all sorts of terrain, Haas Bikes has equipped it with a Shimano Steps E6100 mid-drive motor. The motor gives the bike a top speed of 15.5 miles per hour. And thanks to its 504 watt hour down to mounted battery, should provide sufficient range for trips around the town. Haas doesn't provide specific range estimates. However, power is transferred from the mid-drive to the motor to the rear wheel via a Shimano Dior 11-speed drivetrain.
Okay, so it's a what was the spec on the battery? I can do an estimation because if that bike is only doing 15 miles an hour tops, right? And it's a
504
watt hour. So that's a 50 amp hour. About a good 40 miles, 30, 40 miles.
No, it's got to be more than that.
I mean, I'm giving it a rough. I'm giving it a rough estimate, you know, because they don't even want to give the number, so there could be some other factors there.
Yeah. Complementing the reliable performance of this e-bike is a 26-inch wheel at the back with a 2-inch Schwalbe Marathon e-bike specific tire for extra stability. The front wheel is a smaller 20-inch unit with a 1.75-inch tire to make room for the luggage compartment. The Gravit City comes to stop with a front and rear hydraulic disc brakes for extra confidence. For extra nighttime visibility, the bike is equipped with a B+M IQX headlight and an integrated taillight. I mean, if you think about a 911, what do you call it? A cabriolet.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what this is. You know, a Porsche probably has a lot more volume to work with, but the point of the matter here is front loaded, and it's you know,
the capacity.
It's technologically up there with any other EV vehicle. I don't see anything wrong with it. I just think that we're missing out on the market.
Well, we're not missing out.
Well, I'm saying black people collectively.
No. I'm saying no. Now that for sure, because this is one of those instances, Mike, where the barrier of entry is super low. It really, truly is. The barrier of entry is like extremely low because you're talking about, pardon me, you're talking about very basic components, dude. Batteries, motors, controllers. That's like the core of, because other than that, you just have a regular bike. Okay, then you take those three things and you throw it on to the regular bike, and now you have stuff like this. But now it's like you were just saying a little while ago, the technology is getting more integrated. I think we're going to cover something here in an article or two about that. And then let's look at the frame styles, telescoping front ends. Like everybody's now taking it next level. I think on the link I just posted in the chat a little while ago, I think on that one, we showed a hydrogen hybrid. Okay, hydrogen hybrid or hydrogen powered e-bike. Hydrogen electric, that's what it is. Hydrogen electric e-bike. Okay, so now you have all these concepts coming out to really sort of push this stuff to the next level now that it's been solidified as an industry. So it's still kind of like ground flourish. It really is.
Yeah. All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. All right, push one in the chat if you can see my screen.
Yo, Mike, I can see it.
All right. This is from Atlanta Urbanized City. City of Atlanta wants your 2 cents on e-scooters, e-bikes, etc. Let me zoom in on this. Back in the summer of 2016, Atlanta's bike share network Relay debuted downtown to great fanfare and giddy urbanist press coverage. In less than a year, the program had swelled from 100 to 500 Big Blue 8-speed pedal bicycles located at more than 60 stations around the city, from West End and Vine City to Old Fourth Ward's Studioplex and Midtown's Colony Square. It was hailed as a new dawn in microtransportation for a car-addicted metropolis. But as May, Relay bike share was officially terminated, which is to say that zeitgeists come and go, and Atlantans' taste for getting around town without driving can change. To take the pulse of a citizenry today, the Atlanta Department of Transportation has put together a quick survey that officials say could help shape the future of alternate mobility around town. Our test run questionnaire took roughly 5 minutes. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be all that enthusiastic of riding something like that.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, dude, like there's so many. You know what? Let's go. We'll go there after you finish reading. Go ahead.
Yeah. The ATL DOT Shared Micromobility Survey is aiming to gather insight into how Atlanta residents and visitors are currently using shared e-scooters, e-bicycles, and other micromobility resources. They are also looking for ideas on how the city's alternative transportation network could be better. All responses will remain anonymous and won't be publicly shared, according to ATL DOT officials. But see, this is where Black people come in, right? Atlanta is a very heavily populated Black city. And so you start asking Black people for their opinions, you're going to get something that could be very beneficial. Here's a sample question. Which changes are most critical to making shared micromobility successful in Atlanta? Please rank with 1 being the most critical to success. Interesting bird scooters. As is, Atlanta's shared micromobility options include dockless e-scooters and e-bikes operated by a bird in line. Several other e-operators of scooters, bikes, and other contraptions, remember those e-mopeds, have fallen by the wayside. ATL DOT officials tell Urbanize Atlanta that survey will help guide future decisions for the city's micromobility program. Find the survey here. And so this is what we're talking about, right? This stakeholdership in, emerging technologies, infrastructure, policy development, public policy development. These things matter. And so how do you actually get a part of these emerging markets if you're not actually doing the most minimum thing, which is public engagement?
Right. I would say rider advocacy bare minimum. So you're somebody that has your own vehicle. You show up and you say, hey, listen, that's somebody who uses this to go to work. I pay my taxes here. I use it to do my deliveries, blase, skippy. Like, look, like, this is something that if you do it right, more people could actually benefit from. And it would be a plus. It would be a plus to the civic infrastructure if you guys do it right. And if you do not try to nickel and dime and juice it for every, stakeholdership greed opportunity that presents itself. That's the issue. And what you have to have is you can't have just 1 or 2 people who represent big moneyed interests like putting in on this. You got to have a bunch of people that are like various types of operators. They run delivery businesses and all, whatever venue you're in. But if it's all centered around that, you have more of a voice and more of a say so. Trust me on this. This is on the record, man. You know, we've had to, on a couple of occasions, man, call the city councilman and get some shit done. Seriously. And so when we have these type of discussions and stuff like that, this isn't like a flex or no shit. We're like, again, either you jump in on an industry that kind of has the panache of a potential sort of Amazon type of effect, where 10, 20 years into the future, you know, you would be a pioneer in this field if we were active today. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a melanated face on a lot of the stuff, especially these articles and things that you see. And that's important. And, you know, especially with us and having the engagement that we do in the industry, we're going to push this shit with the utmost importance, because it does have a social impact. It does have a political impact, has a business impact, has a lot of things.
Yeah. And speaking,
ahead, Mike, you got it.
Yeah. And speaking of the stakeholdership, this is from NBC New York. Meet the team training formerly incarcerated people to become master bike mechanics.
Holy shit.
So let me bring this back and then we'll expand this out.
Used or at the very least seen one of the 25,000 city bikes across the city. But have you ever stopped to wonder how these bikes are actually maintained? As the demand for electric bikes has skyrocketed, one nonprofit has come up with new and innovative ways to keep up with this demand.
Bicycles and e-bikes, and especially electronic bicycles, are exploding in popularity and demand. There are not enough mechanics in the country to service the amount of demand that's coming.
Bike New York, in partnership with nonprofit One Community and Motivate Bike Sharing Systems, have designed a new program called Bike Path.
Bike Path works with the Brooklyn DA's office and the NYC Housing Authority to recruit formerly incarcerated people as well as other marginalized members of the NYC community. They then take part in a 5-week intensive training program to learn how to become master bike mechanics.
The unemployment rate for those who are formerly incarcerated are 5 times higher than the general population. And if you're a person of color, if you're a woman, it's that much worse. So we're trying to change all that.
New York Assemblymember Emily Gallagher explained why she was in support of this program.
I got involved in Bike Path because every year I get funding, and I wanted to make sure that I was funding organizations that were supporting the vulnerable members of our community and that were climate resilient and were forward thinking, and Bike Path really fit that profile perfectly.
The aim of the program runs well beyond the actual maintenance of the bike. The program hopes to offer graduates with actionable ways to create a stable career.
The beauty of this program, once again, is that every single one of our students upon graduation get interviewed. They have an opportunity to join the union, which is job security, stability in their lives.
Current program participant Darren Lee spoke to NBC4 New York about what he is looking forward to after the program.
I'm hoping to get a job with City Bike, fixing an electric bike for benefits, union. That's what I need.
Former student Vincent was overjoyed to start his new job after the program ended.
We graduated the 5th Friday, and 2 weeks later, on May 29th, I was hired. I started that week. I love my job. I'm actually very excited to do my job. I work on the all electrical city bikes, the gray ones.
The students and the CEO credit the program instructors for the success of the program.
I really think that everybody deserves an opportunity to get skills that can help them move forward in their life. There's a lot of people who don't have the opportunity to do anything like this, and I just want to be able to influence more and touch people's lives in a bigger capacity.
Finally, the program hopes to change the way these people think about their own life prospects.
People have had lessons drilled into them that they're not going to succeed, they can't succeed, they fail, and we change that dynamic. The result is people change their self-expectations during the program.
For NBC Channel 4 News, this is Feroz Parasnis.
Yo, that was dope, dude.
Really? What did you think was so dope?
Well, I mean, all right. So the cat that got hired working for City Bike, you see the smile on his face and shit?
Yeah.
Like you see how like proud he was to say, dude, I work on electric bikes. Because I'm gonna tell you, dude, like the reason why he kind of had that feel is because it's niche, dude. Not everybody does that, dude. That's like that's a unique skill.
Yeah.
So to come up out of, you know, maybe like a not so great situation or environment, right? And then as a pathway to correction, you learn about electric bikes, dude. And like just kind of seeing that was dope. That was dope. That's why I was like, yo, that shit is dope, man. And matter of fact, I don't know if Rael's in the chat, but I'm a like hit him with this one because he's been on me heavy about, you know, getting some sort of nonprofit component to receive funding to do exactly what this chick just did.
Well, that's exactly what they have in California. I forget the name of the I think it's California Bikers Association or something. Bike Association.
Cal-Bike.
I think it's Cal-Bike. But for me, the takeaway from this is what happens when you have elected officials meeting with people who are about the business, meeting with people who are looking for opportunities. All of that comes in one full circle.
Right.
And so when you hear us talk about politics, when you hear us talk about public policy and policy development, all of this comes in full circle. You can't really have this conversation without having those stakeholders in the room.
And Mike, you know what? You know what? That was a really good tie-in. That really was, because I think oftentimes people don't really get why you would say things, why you and MOT say things like you use the party that's going to get things done, right? And I think what you just said just a minute ago is a perfect example of that, because you see this in play right here. You see the politics meeting the needs of the community, meeting you know, emerging technologies, right? You see it, and there was some political stuff within all of that, right?
Because where does the money come from? Remember, she gets the money every single year. She has to allocate that money.
She has to allocate it out. She has to use
or she doesn't get it the next time around, right?
Boom.
And this is a DEI program. Make no mistakes about this. This is a DEI program.
Yes.
So when you hear people say black men don't benefit from DEI programs, well, it seems like a lot of black men in this video. Seems like there's a lot of black men in that video benefiting from that program. So you hear things like that, and bikes are just going to keep coming anyways, based on, you know, the amount of bikes they had in the shop. That's a whole year's worth of work.
It's not going nowhere. That's the dude. See, that's what I'm saying. Dude, I'm looking at him and he's like, man, I can go somewhere with this. You know, like in today's environment, dude, everybody keeps, you know, all scared about AI and all this other shit and this and that. You know, wouldn't it feel good to know that there's an industry or a venue you can go, you see some long-term prospects in it?
Yeah.
Bikes they ain't gonna fix themselves, bro.
Yeah. So that's why I added this to the docket, you know, the state of micromobility in black men. What does this mean, right? A lot of black men are unemployed, either from the pandemic or they just can't get a job in some of these more vertical industries. This is an industry that is not really emerging, but it's recentering, and it's recentering around e-bikes, e-scooters, rideshare platforms, civic participation, engagement. There's a whole lot that's driving all of this. And so you want more black men off the streets. You want more black men employed. You want more black. And this doesn't require a college degree. Maybe a GED, but the point of the matter here is when people say no one's doing anything for black men, no one's doing anything for the black community. Here's a program right here. Here's an example right here. We just covered an article.
Very niche too.
Yeah, but we just covered an article of Atlanta with their survey asking about microtransportation, micromobility. So there's a lot of civic engagement. There's a lot of nonprofit involvement. There's a lot of money flowing into this, and people, at least in this space, don't want to have that conversation, or are unwilling to have that conversation, or are just completely daft that the conversation even exists, right? And so
I would say it's the last one.
Yeah. Because they're more concerned about, fighting on, riverboats and stuff like that. I'm just saying that these guys are going to be working on the next generation and iteration of PEVs, personally electric vehicles, and they're going to be ready to go as soon as they show up, especially with ride sharing platforms. I think that New York is going to be one of those, New York City is going to be one of those cities that's going to put a lot of money into getting cars off the road and adding more bikes. It sounds like that's the direction that they're going into.
But Mike, there's also the prospect here that this still being such a green industry, and what I mean by that, green, double entendre, pun intended, all that stuff. Green in terms of its carbon footprint, green in terms of its opportunity. A lot of these guys, dude, they're ripe to come up with, spin off their own companies out of that program right there. They can easily spin up their own. I'm just thinking, right? I'm just thinking right off the top of my dome, like components and stuff. Remember, I think one of the articles, we're going to get into this, but we were talking about like a universal component, right, to go on all electric vehicles or something like that, or things like add-ons, right, racks, rails, right, adapters, stuff like that. I'm talking about on the most simplest side of things, starting up a business that has simple components, but that are crucial to micromobility. Like you got the panniers for your scooter, the racks, the light. There's a lot that goes into it, dude, to really get it kitted up. There's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity to do what myself and Anti-Grav did, just go all in on the vehicle themselves. So I'm looking at the startup potential and, the spinoff companies that could come out of this.
Yep. Helmet redefines safety while staying ultra compact. Let's look at this. Unbelievable. You're basically putting an airbag on top of your head.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
If in this era of pollution, pandemic, and panic, you aren't already a bicycle person, it's high time you convert into one. Bicycles are slowly becoming people's preferred means of transportation. People are ditching the fossil fuel consuming and air pollution causing automobiles for more eco-friendly options of bikes. Not only are bicycles a boon to the environment, but they also promote good health and ensure we get our daily dose of physical exercise done. In fact, you can even upgrade and amp up your bicycle with some fun and functional accessories, and an excellent bicycle accessory that prioritizes safety and functionality that you should definitely get your hands on is a Bump Air 2.0. Nothing like Manifest 2.0. That's that. Yeah. So this is interesting because typically bike helmets are plastic or at least some kind of ABS material. And I don't know how comfortable I would feel with an inflatable helmet. Very rarely do I go down, but if I do go down, I kind of want something that's going to be hard impact and absorbent. And so I don't know if I guess if you had nothing else, right? Either it's you go bareback or barehead, whatever you want to call it. You go bare helmet or skull. I guess this would be the only, this would be a better option. If I was traveling, right? If I was getting on a plane and going to Europe or going to Africa or something like that, I may not want to carry a physical helmet, but this may come in handy, like how he has it in his pouch right here. That's like TSA friendly, right? I don't need to
I was gonna say that's TSA friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have used it when I crashed on my scooter, man.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't wearing nothing, so that went very well for me.
I think it's an ingenious design.
Well, you know what I think, Mike?
This is really interesting.
I think it's a really good use case, and I think that they're gonna find. I think the thing that always people always gonna kind of get put off by is how things look. So I think when they find that synergy between function and form, I think that's when it'll hit. But just looking at it, like you said, because dude, I think you're gonna cover the helmet you got. Are you gonna show that one? No. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, I mean, there's other helmets. No. Okay. Well, there's other helmets that have more. They have the functionality of protection, but then they also have the form element, right? The look, you know, and then the integrated functions as well, you know, signal lights and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think if they can take this technology but match it to the form, because I said some of like the e-bike helmets and the e-scooter helmets that are hitting the market now, them shits look dope as hell, and they got a lot of tech in them.
Well, let's think about it from a regulations perspective, right? If New York is saying and California is saying, any ride sharing program that has e-bikes and stuff, e-scooters or whatever, must provide a helmet similar to our car must. For bare minimum of what they're talking about, right? That you must provide a helmet. Well, here's your helmet right here. Now, whether or not it's spec to industry standard, I don't know. But if they're saying every e-bike and e-scooter that is rideshare friendly or sold on the market must have a helmet. This becomes that minimum helmet. I think they're fitting into that minimum spec of deliverables that it's may demand, right? That you must have this as a minimum in order to operate.
Yeah, and I think it's designed to meet transportation in terms of like Department of Transport, DOT, in terms of like impact. I think these are designed to meet that, like you said, the minimum. Yeah.
Man, that's really interesting. Aquateki asked in the chat, how breathable is it? I would think it's breathable enough. Looking at this picture right here, it doesn't. I mean, there's holes in the back of it.
Yeah, it looks like it has a bit of a mesh.
Up here, yeah,
it has like a mesh feel to it, right? Where the air can kind of circulate in and out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they wouldn't have put the net in the filter over the top if it wasn't breathable, right?
Right.
So I think they're using that to stop, any other debris from coming inside of it. So I assume there must be some kind of breathability. Interesting. Very interesting.
No, Mike, hey, Mike, you there? Or is something happening with mine? Aquateki, I don't know. So I'm not sure if Mike dropped off. I'm not sure what happened, or if my sound is messed up. But I see a question. What's the inflation mechanism? I would imagine you could either use a hand pump or a CO2, like where you just attach it and push the little thing, and it just blows it up. I would imagine you could use either one. Says, I guess Mike will be back. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Okay, so I'm not sure if Mike stepped away or if he's having an audio issue. Well, while we wait for Mike to come on back, let's take a look at some of the other comments here. Hey, Shonda, how you doing? We got Dollar Will. Hey, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Black Dev, Johnny Blaze, how you doing, man? Shango Zulu, what's going on? Logic Needed, welcome. Sexy Red, Ronin and Sug, welcome. Rokumuru, welcome. Sheed, I see you. Got Cedric Webb, Wayne Wallace in the house. All right. Glad you guys could join us. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Mike. Maybe he had to step away or something. Let's see. The concept of that helmet is very innovative. Yeah, Shonda, there is okay, cool, Wackio. Thank you, man. Yeah, Shonda. So there is a helmet. Let me see if I have the thing, Madhu, the link or something. Well, I can't actually share it because Mike has the Zoom. But yeah, it has an integrated rear signal lamp on the back of the helmet. It's like a LED array, and it looks really sleek. And what it does is it connects via a thumb lever that you mount onto the handlebar on the scooter or the bike. And if you're going to turn it left, you just flick the switch left, and then the light on the back of the helmet like basically signals left. And then you do it the same thing for right. The helmet also has weather detection and a shock sensor. So if somebody was to hit you, it detects the level of shock where it determines, okay, you just went down. And then what it does is it sends a text message to anyone that you assign in your contacts saying, hey, contact this person, or it just sends an alert that just says, hey, look, this person just went down, right? We detected a hard impact. So this is some of the other tech that's coming through, coming down the pike here when it comes to this micromobility space. It's crazy. It's like you're seeing all this kind of like next level stuff that you see in electric cars and all that, but you're finding it in, you know, these scooters and electric bikes and stuff that my garage is filled with. You know what I mean? And this is like stuff that's not even anything that I have, right? This is like next level stuff. I don't know if the article's on the docket, but I know Mike and we were talking about integrate, so like having sort of like 4G integration, right? Like literally into the scooter. And you know, we were kind of musing like, okay, you'd have to have the controller slaved to say like a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino or something. The very next day, Mike texts me a damn link about a scooter that's coming out with a 4G Raspberry Pi in it. I'm just like, dude, all right, I'm getting sick of this shit. I need some investors. Fuck this. Yeah, Kentucky integrated turn signals, fam. Like, dude, like it's next level shit. Like that's why we're really trying to we're trying to push this, dude. Like you gotta you know, just to kind of a sidebar, right? Till Mike comes back. You know, think about like just in the future, right? How people will just move around. You know, think about the ease of which you know, a little small electric vehicle just zips you off and gets you somewhere, right? And just think about that, right? I know we get on this Afrofuturism shit, but at the same time, we also are like, all right, well, this is kind of it. We're sort of living it in real time, depending on how you look at it. You know what I mean? And we get confirmation of this from things like, you know, companies thinking to integrate an Arduino into a scooter or a bike, right? It's like basically having OnStar for your personal electric vehicle. It's like we're moving into like this crazy sort of experimental phase of micromobility, I'm thinking. And so this is kind of why even like with us, we're gonna try to retool some things. And I'm literally in the midst of working on that right now. But the important part of all this is to highlight how we need to be in this, particularly as Black men. We need to be in this, we should not be missing out. Okay, we shouldn't. Like we really should not. Post a link for the helmet. Yes, Shonda, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me find it. It is here somewhere. Here. Give me just a minute. I'm going to dig through here. I'm going to find that link and I shall send it. Okay. So, wait, where is it? It's called Unit 1. Let's see. Let me go here. I'm gonna look in my. Sorry, guys. I gotta find where I looked that up. There it is. Unit 1 helmet. And this is it right here. It is the Pharaoh smart helmet. Pharaoh. Interesting name. Let's see. Let me get the link. I just want to make sure this is the right one. Oh, come on, Samsung. Let's see. I think this is it. Copy the link. And then, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it right there. All right. Here we go. Let's see here. I can see it now, Bike OS. Yeah, dude. There's actually a few. There's been a few open source platforms. And another thing that's going on right now is Google has an API. Google has an API to where you can basically integrate your rideshare fleets to show up as vehicles on Google Maps. Okay. And then somebody can click that and then it'll have the vehicle information, battery level, all this and all that. It says, yeah, well, if you're right around in this area and you want to use this, click here, download the app, and then you can take it. Right. See, so there is an open source component to all of this. Google jumped right into the mix on it with an API to integrate rideshare fleets. So that was something that we had did as well. Let's see here. What the hell happened to Mike? Hold on one second. Let me just text him real quick. Okay, I just text him. All right. Let's see. Yeah. So there is some open source aspects to this already. I'm looking at there's two, after we do some retooling here, there's two projects that I just want to kind of get off the ground. One is an electric racing cart, and the other one is an electric quadricycle. Basically a quadricycle, and then from there, want to design like different shells or different coverings, different kind of like mini car. I don't know how to describe it. I'll have to get some design sketches and show what I'm talking about. There's quite a few actual quadricycle concepts that are out there, and I just want to toss my hat into it. Because the components are all the same. It's the same shit that's sitting in here, on this e-bike that I'm looking at. So just port it over to a quadricycle and then do some different shit with it. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking. But all this stuff is just really is coming on board. Like even in California right now, the reason why I say an electric racing cart, because I do I came up kart racing and all that kind of shit. And in 2024, California has a ban on small off-road motors. That's what they determined. That's what they define that as. So basically lawnmower engines. Yes. So in 2024, basically you won't be able to buy like gas lawnmowers. I shit you not, dude. This is some crazy stuff. You need to really think about this. And I have to maybe dig up some links and send it to you where there's these stories about like, you know, what the gardeners and stuff here in California are going to have to do, you know, going forward. Electric lawnmowers and lawn equipment stuff is just not as efficient over the energy cycle of a battery than a small little gas tank is, oddly enough, right? So yeah, there's that whole thing, and that even kind of extends over into racing parts because those use gas motors too, little small ones. And so, you know, everything might just be switching over to electric. So might as well be first on board for that shit too, right? Let's see here. Architect, you said I heard about California's ban on gas-powered lawn equipment. Yeah, it's insane, bro. Like I said, man, I'm a technocrat. I'll let you know, right? I'll tell you straight up. But there's things that where I'm kind of like, dude, do we really need to do that? You know what I mean? I'm kind of like a balanced type of person. Like I'm talking about balance. I'm saying don't use your car as much, right? Like, you know, use your electric bike or scooter more and use your car less. Like that in and of itself will take you a long way. Number one, how much gas you save. I don't put gas in the truck that often, right? Because I take the scooter for every damn thing. To be real with you, or the bike. So when I need to take the truck, I'll take the truck, and then I'll just go put some gas in it when I need to. But it's the cost savings. You said, "Dog, so your next mower will be a bot." Now, you know what? I do kind of like that, especially if it's for personal. If it's for personal use, then yeah, I could see the efficacy in that. I've seen that before. You know, people they'll map out the lawn, they'll do the whatchamacallit, they'll set the perimeter of the gateway or what have you, and then you just set the bot on its path, and then it'll just cut it, and then you just go in with the trimmer, clean it up, and it's done. You know. Now, I see an opportunity for like these big moneyed industrial, let's just say lawn people or whatever. They come in with the big money bots and they just automate shit. I hate to talk like that, but I can see somebody coming in with some seed capital to try something like that. They have like a farm equipment that does similar things, like shake almond trees and all that, and they're automated. And they've used some of them around here before. So yeah, no problem, Shonda. Yeah, I said that helmet looks good, right? And that's kind of what I was sort of referring to, just in terms of like where things are going. So now it's you have the function, but now it's about the form. You got to make all this stuff look sexy now. So you got all these new scooters, new bikes, and they look real sleek. So now you do have to kind of be mindful of the components. You don't want to buy something that looks nice, but it's a piece of shit, right? So let's see. Well, we'll see. I don't know if Mike gave me host privileges or something. I don't know. Oh, I can. All right. Well, let me see here. I don't know if I can. Can I let people up? I think I can actually. I think my heck had the dip. I don't know if he texted me or told me whatever. I don't know. Does anyone have any other questions or anything? Because other than that, I'll just go ahead and kind of wind it down. I mean, you could ask, like, if you have any questions about like my operations, the stuff that we've done here. I bought a battery mower 20 years ago. Loved it. How is that battery holding up though after 20 years? That would be my question. Just out of curiosity. Electric lawn equipment is very viable. I've been using the Ryobi 40-volt lawn equipment for a few years. Okay. Now, that's the thing, right? Architect, from what the gardeners are saying, that they've tried to use this stuff. Now, we're talking about for commercial. So that means from every house to every house that they go to, the lawn sizes are different, right? The amount of battery power that's going to be used for each lawn is different. You know, some so it becomes a question of how many batteries do you keep to utilize all this, and will you have enough batteries to basically run the operations for, like, just say a full day of landscaping and stuff, right? And then there's the question of charging. Do you charge during the day at a customer's house? Do you plug in and charge the shit while you're using other stuff? I mean, there's all these other things, right? When it comes to commercial, how to do that commercially. I don't know, man. You know what, Dollar Will? Let me give him a call, dude. I think I'm gonna go, because I thought he was gonna come back by now. Let me do that. Let me go ahead and just wrap this up. Yeah, I'm going to just wrap this up. So thank you guys for joining in. Like the live stream if you did like it, or even if you didn't, you want to be nice. Go ahead and like it. Subscribe if you haven't, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.